On this week's episode of The Early Crow, we talked all things Dan Bowman Racing, his love for NBA. PharJack joined us too. We kicked on together actually on Saturday night, but we didn't mean to mention that. But we also talked about what happened last weekend at the Cox Plate Carnival, touched on the Golden Eagle, which is the big rich race up in Sydney this weekend. We went through the good races at Flemington for Derby Day. And don't forget to like and subscribe and follow our socials because our man Dan Bowman is going to give you a little bit of action for some NBA bets. So tune in for that. Hope you enjoy the show.
Early Crow is sponsored by Custom ORTC. Go and get yours now from the links in our bios on Twitter and Instagram. It is the best hoodie around, I'll tell you that much. They handle everything from design, warehousing and shipping. Their Instagram is custom by ORTC and their email is customer@ortc.com.au.
Welcome to the Early Crow, episode 11, a big one. We've got two guests on this week. The usual man who's sort of carried us in Paps' holidaying absence, PharJack, is back, but also Dan Bowman, who trained two winners yesterday at Bendigo, the Nursery of Champions. If you didn't pick that up on the telecast, Rick says it every single time, but the Nursery of Champions, Bendigo. Dan Bowman, welcome to the Early Crow.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, boys, for having me.
Didn't tip us at all, that first winner. Did you have an inkling?
600 days between wins. She's a bit behind. She owes me a bit, so a bit hard to be tipping her.
Went sort of in his swan song, just leaning heavily on the goat.
Well, I never used to be able to get him, but now he's announced retirement. All the big stables have dropped off, and he's happy to ride for us smaller blokes. So it's happy to get a winner with him before he goes out.
Tell the listener a little bit like your background. So my understanding is kicked off way back in the day alongside Group 1 trainer now, Mitch Friedman, with DK Weir down the Bull or Ballarat.
So just before that, I started with Kira Ma when he had Tears I Cry.
Oh, yeah.
I was working with him, and he sent me to Lindsay Park for 12 months just to sort of fast track me with all the basics. And sort of once I'd done that, I came back here and I was working with Jared, and Weary asked me to come and work alongside Mitch. And Mitch was going to go overseas for 6 or 12 months, and I was going to run the show when he left. So it sort of went from there. And then Mitch come back, and we worked together for a couple of years, and then we both sort of went off and did our own thing.
How's that been? Where are you now? You're based out of Warrnambool. How many horses? The journey a little bit, and like how enjoyable is it? How hard is it?
Well, it was a good grounding, obviously, because we're both Group 1 winning trainers in our own right now. So we obviously learned the right
Was there any
way.
side betting on that? Like, is there like you get the first shout because I'm the Group 1 trainer for the last sort of 2 or 3 years? Has he just sort of got out of that or anything?
No, you know what he's like. We've sort of been hanging shit on each other the last this week and last few days, comparing trophies from races. He's reeling off a Burrenbeat Cup, and I got a trophy yesterday for benchmark 78 at Bendigo, so that'll go up on the shelf.
Pardon? You get the Monopoly board like I saw all the jockeys get as well, or was that just for the jockeys yesterday?
Yeah, Blake Shin gave his to me wife, so I don't know what he's playing at there, but he liked it.
Shinny.
So now we work about 27, 28, which is a comfortable number. Usually of that 27, 28, about 15 of them are up and racing, and the rest are sort of young horses just coming through the system. So, we might go to the races 2 or 3 times in a busy week, but then we could go a couple of weeks without a runner. So that's sort of comfortable for us. We've got 2 kids, so you've got to have a bit of a balance.
We sort of connected initially. Well, you guide me at the yearling sales, but also we just have I think we have a shared sort of perspective on racing Twitter, the bubble that is racing Twitter. How'd you find? I found it fascinating yesterday. What a ride, Blake Shin. Like, how good was that ride on that good Kiwi import when he went up the guts up the inside? And you compare that to the racing bubble Twitter on Saturday on Antino. Is that not the perfect example of the bubble?
Well, the bubble's just got this amazing, I don't know what it is, it just can't see the real world. Like it's just its own thing, and people are just so delusional. Like, yeah, it was a great ride, but it's millimeters off putting someone on the deck and being an absolute horror watch.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great. He sucked the gap, gave the thing dropping back a bit of a brush on the way through. Like, you don't want your apprentices watching that and thinking that that's okay. You know what I mean? Yes, it won the race, but Jesus, it's a dangerous sport, really dangerous, and stuff like that. As good as it was for the backers of the favourite, yeah, there's not much margin for error, is there?
No, not at all.
I reckon I said, "Oh fuck me, not again, shitty," before he went up the inside, and but then he got the job done, so it was all right.
Because we were on.
Yeah, we're on
I know Far know the answer to this, but what was Dan's first Group 1 winner, Paps?
I don't know fucking idea.
Far?
I don't know either. Sorry.
Paps,
Oh,
I'm young. Be good to your mother.
Best name course.
Be good to your mother. Real
But-
setup
oh.
job. How far away, like out from winning that Group 1, did you put that on the agenda and just build towards it? Because it was a handicap that you won, and you timed it to perfection.
Yeah, so he won a 70 at Sandown on Easter Monday and won by like 7 and in time too. And I knew then that was the perfect race for him because Rupert Clark is a really fast run 1400 and you need a horse that can absorb that high tempo and then quicken again. So I just set in place then to just keep ticking through the grades just to get his rating at the point that it was good enough to get me in the race, but keep me on the minimum. So beat the handicapper. And we got in with 52. I think 3 weeks before, I had the option of running him in the Memsey or the Open 1400. And I thought if he went to the Open and won again, it would push his rating, he'd get more weight. So we ran him in the Memsey. I think, I can't remember, maybe Scales of Justice won it, and we got beat 3 lengths. And I knew how much I had up my sleeve fitness-wise. I think I said to a couple of mates on the day, they will not beat him in 3 weeks' time. There's not a horse out there that can beat him.
He's one of the best types I've ever seen, just moving away from that Scales of Justice. He was like a phenomenal horse, athletic beast.
Yeah, he was a freak.
Should we start talking NBA? Because Dan's on the show, guys, to talk about NBA. It's been a big week in NBA. We're starting to watch it a little bit it sort of keeps you company if you've got enough TV screens as you start your punting day on a Wednesday or a Friday or a Thursday or whatever it is. James Harden joins the Clippers. Paps, what do you reckon about this? You've sort of got 4 big dogs on one team, one ball, 5 blokes. There's only four of them are superstars.
Yeah, and we were talking about this the other day. All the boys were training, and was it Harden, George,
Russell, and Kawhi
Russell
Leonard.
and Kawhi Leonard. We were saying this the other day. The boys are having a debate about if they're going to be Hall of Famers, all 4 of them. And I was like, geez, I'm not a big NBA fan, but they were having a great debate about that. But it's going to be very interesting if they can all mix and match and get it going. But it's definitely a star-studded lineup, isn't it?
How do you manage? Would you manage those big egos in a change room? How would you manage them?
It's funny. We had a bloke come in last year to talk about. He actually worked at the Brooklyn Nets, and they're all about themselves. All the big boys, all about. He says they're all about themselves. It's all about I want the ball. Like for Brooklyn last year, it was obviously Durant, and then they had Kyrie Irving as well, who's has a massive deal around all that stuff.
Blood Earther.
So it'll be very, yeah, it'll be very interesting. It's who do you reckon takes the last shot out of them for, Dan?
I think it's still Kawhi's team.
Yeah,
he was on fire today. You watched the first half today. Like, he was shocking yesterday, but he came out today, and I think that's his way of showing everyone it's still his team. Like, he had 20 in the first quarter nearly, so he's still the best player in the team. And when he's on, he's still one of the 3 best players in the league. But he's obviously just had a lot of injuries, and so they've got to manage him a bit now.
Yeah, it's I'm very inconsistent with the NBA, but it's definitely an interesting time of the year with all the NBA stuff going on, the trades and all that stuff.
I think that the trades and the content that the sport just creates, and also because they champion arrogance and confidence and me stuff. Like that would not happen in Australia, but the way they do it over there just provides content all year round until you get to the playoffs.
We chop people down that want to do that here. Like it's like an Australian thing to do. If someone we call them arrogant and cocky when it's just called confidence over there. Like I don't know what it
Tall
is if
poppy
it's
syndrome
Australian.
here. They absolutely slam you if you say anything around like I'm the best or I'm gonna be the best or I'm gonna win even before the deal's done. You just get ripped apart over here by tall poppy syndrome.
Have you
No one
found
want-
that hard, Far? Like blending, being an Australian, having an Australian audience, but trying to you're cracking it in the American audience at the same time. So you got to blend a bit, I guess.
Oh, well, I just think that the Australian audience represents like less than 10% of my market. So why would I pander to them when I'm more, it's more natural to me to be that bit more confident, bit more flamboyant and that sort of thing. Why would I waste my time? Like I've already get the backing from the Australian audience that I get because I grew up here and because I still train here and I am Australian. So the older generation, I think with my generation, because of social media and because we all have grown up watching a bit more NBA and a bit more UFC, with my generation, you don't get as much of it. Whereas like my dad's generation, like I know some of my dad's friends would listen to the shit I say and just be like, oh, can't believe he would say something like that. But at the end of the day, that's not my demographic. So I'm not really interested in pandering to them.
Yeah, I think it still happens now, perhaps in the NFL. Like if you did a pregame and said, I feel so good today, I reckon I'm going to get at least 20 touches and I'll probably kick 4. And then you had 14 touches and kicked 2, like it'd be all over SEN all next week. Like and calling the volcano you to like till your ears hurt.
Mate, it would be the worst. It would be the worst thing ever. Like you'd be public enemy number 1 in the AFL if you said something like that, I reckon.
Oh, I reckon if you said it to your coaches or something, geez, I'm feeling good today, like I reckon I'm in for 4 today or something like I sometimes say that when I'm laughing and then don't touch it. So I sort of try to keep my mouth quiet a bit.
Wouldn't want to see our WhatsApp before a Saturday's racing. Like half of them have already won.
Anyway.
Oh, that's just confidence though. I've never started a Saturday on the punt and thought, you know what, it's a tough day. I don't know if I'm going to find any winners today. Like in my head,
you haven't been doing it long enough. Then
in my head on a Saturday morning, every time I wake up, I'm just thinking, I can't imagine that I don't tip the card today.
I reckon I've had some of my best games when I've filled up on the punt. I'm just walking into the MCG or the SCG absolutely buzzing, and I'm like, "Oh, we're on today, boys."
Go on.
And the boys know it because I got a smile on my face, going, "Oh, geez, Paps had a good day. Look at him, he's up and about." But anyway,
back to NBA. Straighten us up, Dan. Yeah. Well, are there teams or angles for us to have a little bet at like through this season, and how like hard is it sometimes? I'd assume it's tough. Like if you're setting yourself up for a long-term position on like Denver or whatever, and now like Harden just flips and goes from the Sixers, who aren't really a threat, to this now super team. Must be tough to set yourself to win, build a book long-term NBA.
Yeah, it can be. Last year was really difficult. I had Nikola Jokic last year, moral to win the MVP, and then 6 weeks out, the American media started this storm of Joel Embiid should win it, and because it's a voted award, they basically through the media convinced everyone that it should be Embiid, and he won it. It was just ridiculous. And then Russell Westbrook was $1.50 for sixth man of the year, and 2 months to go, he gets traded, and he starts the rest of the season, so he's ineligible. So you've got to be careful with those long range plays. But I nailed a few last year. We got Denver at $5 to win the championship. Malcolm Brogdon, sixth man, he was $23. So you can do it if you work the angles, but yeah, when trades can get done right up to 6 weeks before the year's over, it changes a lot.
Would you say that your number one focus in life is actually NBA? Because like I've seen you leading in horses, like when I used to lean over the mounting yard fence just doing yard, and you'd say like you'd be talking about the NBA game that was going then, and you had a horse about to run.
So horse racing is my job, which I'm okay at. But NBA and basketball is my passion and what I love to watch. And I don't play anymore because my body's failed me. But my wagering would be probably 80% basketball and 20% racing. So I just find there's more options, there's more angles, you get more information, and I enjoy watching it. And you get more value for your money. You get 2-hour game compared to a 60 or 90-second horse race.
What angles are you taking? You taking over unders or player props, or what are you taking as a
Mostly
bet?
player props. Try and work the angles on player props. There's a big difference between home and away when teams. It's like football. Like for some reason, some players when they go on the road, they just don't show up. NBA is no different. So when a good team plays on the road, they lean on their stars a bit more. It's situational. And this year, it's gotten a bit harder from the start because they brought in the new rules with not being able to rest players for no reason. They're leaving it right up to game time to make them decisions. So you used to get the team announced an hour or two before the game, and you had time to do your research and work your angles. But now they're doing it 10, 15 minutes before the game. So you've got to be on the ball and get all the notifications on Twitter of who's in and who's out and the changes. But yeah, it's fascinating to me.
Yeah, I reckon I was following a bloke maybe last year or 2 years ago, and he bet just unders, because there's so many things that can go wrong in a game. You can get fouled out, team can be up by 20 points and get subbed off. Are you going over player props overs or more unders, or you just whatever you reckon?
I'm usually an overs man. It's just something about playing someone to have a bad game that just doesn't work well
Yeah,
with me. It's just not my go. A lot of people do it and are successful at it, and that's all they do. But I'm more of an overs man, and I'll try and find someone who's going to have a good game and be able to cheer for them to have a good game rather than pulling on someone's coattail.
It's a lot harder to enjoy a game of NFL or NBA if you're on the unders.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember cheering for blokes for missing.
Yeah, well, you're basically wanting it to be an average game, and you're going to sit there and watch it. That's like 2 hours of pain.
Well, I seen one of the all-time sick beats yesterday, Clarkey. He had a little multi. He had Phoenix Suns to win into interpretation, into Jimmy the Star, into Vauban for the cup.
Oh,
and
the Suns
are up by 20 points like halfway through the game. We're sitting at the Randwick Mountain Yard, and Durant's got the ball stolen with 2 seconds to go, and they've gone in and think he was just sick as they all come.
Yeah, that was Big Kevin versus that number 1 draft pick. Boys, we got out to the Cox Plate. Well, you went out the old Manikato night, perhaps. Far and I were there. Far was there for track work, breakfast with the stars. You were there Friday night, Saturday. You might have even gone Sunday to see if anyone's still there. I don't know.
Did Far have a tent out there? Was he camping out there?
You just rolled into whoever's tent you wanted.
I got to get it. I got to rent a flat at Mooney Ponds. I reckon I got to get somewhere close. The spiritual home for me, Mooney Valley.
What were the highlights from a big Cox Plate weekend, Far?
Oh, mate, there was quite a few. The Friday night, I think a highlight for me was that I said I was only going to have 2 beers and then go home. And I had 2 beers and then went home. And I thought that was a huge achievement for me because usually that Friday night I do some damage to myself and then I'm really struggling getting up for Cox Plate Day. Whereas this time I was fresh. I was as fresh as a daisy for Cox Plate Day, and it was great. I managed to sneak myself down into the owner's yard for the Cox Plate, which was a nice little highlight. And it's just good to see. I had it wrong. I didn't think Romantic Warrior would win, and I'd said that during the week. I was against it. But I think it was just one of those days where the best horses were at the front when they crossed the finish line, and that's like, if you're a racing fan, that's good to see. It wasn't good for me on the punt, that race in itself, but it was just a good day.
Pretty amazing job, Dan. They've done the Hayes boys with Mr. Brightside. Like, good horse last prep and the prep before, but he's gone to a new level this preparation. They've done a phenomenal job.
Oh, outstanding, and to take the horse all the way from when they got it through the grades, teach it to win, and they've just turned it into a winning machine now. It's been beating a nose on the weekend from the Cox Plate. Everyone was writing it off as a 2,000 metre horse. Unbelievable. They're the type of horses that, you dream about getting.
Is Imperatrice the best sprinter in Australia, Paps?
Yep.
You boys know I love Imperatrice. Went the first we got with that 480 we got for her the first time I did the early crow when she ran over Giga Kick. I don't think we'll ever see that kind of money for her again.
I just can't believe that she bounced through that obviously extremely brutal tempo that was way too quick, which was too much for Giga Kick, and somehow she got through that tempo and managed to go on and win Group 1 after Group 1. Like that's maybe her biggest achievement.
The tempo where didn't they go slower than Giga Kick's first up run at 1,000 meters the last prep before that?
I thought they did, and so did the data, but that's not what the narrative thought.
Right.
Were you there that day, Jack? Giga Kick's first up run from the yard, because you're a yard watcher.
No, I wasn't. No.
You weren't there either, Jack. Other Jack.
No.
So the people I spoke to said he was too fat.
Yeah.
And look, no knock on Clay, he's a great trainer. But I suffered the same sort of thing. Be Good to Your Mother had his great prep, went to the paddock, put on weight, which was just maturity and muscle. I tried to train him the same, but because he was carrying that extra muscle, he was fat. Same thing, like Giga Kick's developed, gone from 4 to 5, matured. And he just raced fat and blew up because he set it too much of a task.
Yeah.
100%. As far as Imperatrice the best sprinter, I don't know. Like I don't know how you can make that call without seeing her line up against I Wish I Win and Think About It. Obviously, I Wish I Win's gone to the paddock. We've got Think About It in this weekend. I think he's paying $1.60 or something like that.
$1.80 versus their other good horse, same trainer, same silks.
Private Eye.
Private Eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, just he's just an out and out winner and a superstar, and you can't compare the fields that Imperatrice is running against down here to that Everest field that he beat. But in saying that, the way she's winning, she could be anything and she could do anything. So I'd like to see him face off in the Champions Sprint. But don't know if we're going to get it.
How do you? I've been thinking about it down the straight. I've been thinking about the good horses that like really good horses. It just doesn't matter. They just go to the straight and they just go like Black Caviar and the likes. Do you reckon the same with Imperatrice? It's just going to go bang, or do you reckon it could go wayward or not like the straight? How do you look at it, Dicko?
I think she would start favourite against him down the straight if they run on Saturday week. One of the big factors that often will move a market and is a good indicator of the horses like potency down the straight is their closing speed, because it's kind of like a 1,300 metre race if they run it properly. So they don't sort of jump and cuddle; they sort of just gallop, in a way. And she's got
it's a slow build, isn't it?
And her ability to like relentlessly be like one of the fastest closers of a day, off any sort of tempo, will hold her in really good stead down the straight. But she hasn't done it, and it will be like a it'll be a thing where the big boys will decide, well, I want to see her do it before she does it. But I'd say if they met down the straight in the champion sprint, she would start shorter than he would, but it'd be a great watch. Like
that'd get you on track for sure to see something like that. That'd be huge.
We'll back up though.
No,
they'll just do the right thing by it.
I don't think he will.
Back it up.
No, there's too much money on the weekend. Like if he wins again on the weekend, like the money's won in 3 starts, he'll just go to the paddock again.
Yeah,
exactly.
I was really worried with her behaviour pre-race on Saturday. There was only 30,000 or something like that at the Valley, and she was real stirred up before the race. They had a lot of trouble getting her to the gates. I know she flogged them, but Flemington, twice the crowd, down the straight first time. There's a few red flags to me. I wouldn't be totally shocked if they don't go with Imperatrice.
Do you reckon
I completely agree, because they've been so disciplined with their preparation and they've done their job now.
Do you reckon that Flemington isn't as bad in terms of crowd numbers because of the way the setup is? Like the mounting yard at Moonee Valley is so in tight and it feels like they're stacked on you, whereas at Flemington it's a bit more open and I know the crowd's bigger, but I don't know if it would feel like it from inside there.
Yeah, but Dan spoke to this more than me, but they're kind of like boxed and confined all the time,
Yeah.
I've seen horses go go bad more often at Flemington on Cup week than anywhere
Yeah, right.
from the yard for
Makes
whatever
sense.
reason. Would you agree with that, Dan?
What was that? Sorry.
I've seen horses go off in the yard pre-race more often at Flemington than anywhere that I've ever seen.
Yeah, well,
They seem
Cup
to like
week-
Caulfield because I think at Caulfield they can sense that they're about to the track's just over the fence. But there's like that, they've got that little like all the roses and the big hedges, and they have to go through the crowd again, and they just get a bit.
Yeah, well,
Ah,
Cup week they're in there longer. There's more people. You got the chopper above, the drones. Like, remember, it's our time. Danny O'Brien's kicked the fence and knocked it over, running it going out, and nearly killed a kid a couple of years ago. So yeah, it's a bit of a worry for me. I wouldn't be having a bet in the race until they're behind the gates.
I've got a theory with does next year, because the trainer wanted to keep Imperatrice in Melbourne, do they go base in Sydney next year and go for the Everest? And just stay there and do go for an Everest? Or
I think
do
she'll
they
be at
do the
stud
same
by
thing?
next. I think she'll be at stud by next spring. Yep, she'll come back, run in the autumn, and then they'll either go to stud or they'll sell her, and someone from Japan will pay $5 million for her.
Righto, eyes on ponies. We kick off at Rose Hill for some of the biggest prize money of all time to try and compete with Derby Day. They don't need to. If I was running that joint, I would have spent no money. Eyes are already on me. Everyone wants to bet. So I'm drawn to the races because of Flemington's beautiful Derby Day card, and I can just tax that turnover my end. I would have done that. Anyway, you do you. Big race, $10 million race, the Golden Eagle, 4-year-olds and up or 4-year-olds only. Our man, Dan Mitch Friedman's had to just scratch attrition. His Group 1 winner last start, gone off a little bit, kicked out or some such. He's got a sore leg. He's been put away for a spell, but he's done his job this preparation. The focus of this race, Tom, is Amelia's Jewel, who was a very short price favourite in attrition's two-rack. Wasn't blessed, but it was poor, but it had that really short SP. It now backs up into this race. Thoughts on this race, particularly Amelia's Jewel, Tommy?
Yeah, it's a very interesting one. I reckon I haven't fully done the race or anything, but obviously Amelia's Jewel, I know Far loves her, so he might be able to touch on it. But yeah, it's obviously first time Sydney way for Amelia's Jewel. Although to the eye it probably didn't look that good. The Guineas, was it? Sorry,
Turak.
Turak. But on the data, it's still a pretty good run. Obviously, it's equal favourite. There's a fair bit of money for the top weight Hawaii 5-0. But yeah, good gate as well. Barrier 5 lane on. I think she's a really good chance as the market shows. But I would probably off just the form. I think I'd probably nearly lean towards Hawaii 5-0 as Espiona's come out of the Everest. Everest form looks pretty good. But yeah, it's an interesting race. I haven't fully dived into it. Provolika draws barrier 16. Had a really good run last start, but drops back to 1500. But yeah, it's an interesting race. There's also a Japan horse first up. How does that go? Barrier 2, does it get sucked up inside?
What was that Japan horse called, please, mate?
Ramama.
Got him gone. Tell your story. Welcome, pal. Yeah, the Japanese horse. I probably shut down Canterbury for 3 months for it, so hopefully it runs a good race. Dan, Far. You're a big Amelia's Jewel man, massive Amelia's man.
Yeah, I'm with her here, and I'm emotionally invested in the horse. I spent a fair bit of time with Simon Miller when he was down here in Melbourne, and love the setup here. Love Frosty on. It's the exact same setup that we saw with I Wish I Win last year. A so-so performance in the Turak handicap, didn't blow anyone away with the run, but wasn't super disappointing either. That was exactly the prep that I Wish I Win had going into this race. Back to 1500, I think she'll have the turn of foot. She goes back in gate 5 now. I think it's a setup for her to win, and I hope the money keeps coming for Hawaii 5-0 and we can get a better price behind the gates for her.
Gets the golden switch. Dan, what do you reckon?
How much work, Jack, she done Sydney direction? Do you know, being sort of in the stable?
I don't know. I know that they took her immediately after the Toorak run, they were running on all the off days when they were going the other way at Flemington. So that was from the right away after the run at in the Toorak. I don't know.
So
I couldn't tell you though. You could probably speak to it a little bit better in terms of getting a horse ready to go the other way, whether that's a lot of time or a little amount of time, or some horses just pick it up. I know Simon did say that she just switches legs beautifully, and Frosty even said that she has no trouble with it. But is
That's the
that a
key
lot?
thing, Dan, isn't it? Not like you just want to hope that your horse gets on the right leg.
yeah, I wouldn't think a good horse like her would have any issue. Like from a training perspective, the way I read the prep was she had a soft kill first up, then she went to a really hard run race, and on a 2 week turnaround to a Toorak, off a hard gallop on the Tuesday with the shades on, she was entitled to be flat in the Toorak, in my opinion. Look, I didn't find the winner, but I couldn't have her in the Toorak on that platform. Now she's had the good gap to runs and drawn a gate. I think she'll blow this lot away. Like Legado's a query, Sydney direction, flying over. I just think she's better than this lot. I think she'll land first half of the field as you need to around Rose Hill. And if she gets clean air from the top of the straight, good luck catching her.
How good's D Lane too? In form and just one of the greats too.
I think he's just behind Ryan Moore as one of the best jockeys in the world. Like he goes to Japan, rides Group 1 winners, goes to Hong Kong, rides Group 1 winners, like goes to Dubai, rides Group 1 winners. The bloke's just a jet.
Yeah, like even his ride on the really nice filly for Price Kent, Charm Stone in the Golden Rose, like it held up, but like gave it almost every possible from an awful spot. He's so good. I agree with everything you say. It's the perfect setup. It's also a form line that we can trust from last year. I think she should start sort of $3. I'm going to have a bet, and I don't often bet in Sydney. Should we head now? We've already sort of spoken about the sprint race. It's basically Joe Pride versus Joe Pride. Good luck to him. Any other thoughts on that race?
I think around the $2.30 mark, Ballinipatina can run a good race as well. $2.30 the place. You can even bloody have a little cheeky trifecta or whatever you reckon, but with the 1, 4, and 6. But yeah, I think Ballinipatina was a good run last start and can run a race here for a place.
You're a big Bella man, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I reckon I wanted to go to the Manicato and just exact a job it with Imperatrice, but they didn't go there, so stayed up there. But
so did
yeah,
Far, because Far gets a lot of lead in the pencil for a horse that's shown a thirst to get around the valley, which she's 100%. Done.
Yeah. I went to a bookie. I listened. I asked a bookie. Yeah. I reckon 6 weeks ago if somebody would give me a market for Imperatrice to run first and Ballinipatina to run second in the Manicato. And they were like, nah, no chance. And then lucky I didn't anyway, because they ended up going somewhere different.
Oh, well, they lost, didn't they? Idiots. They didn't take it.
Right, let's head to Flemington headquarters, Derby Day. The best card of racing each and every year. One of the great days. You heading out? Who's heading out, Dan?
I'll be at Royal Mortlake for their once a year carnival for the last race on Derby Day.
Well, best of luck.
I'll be dodging pedestrians on the way out, trying to get home after the last with the float on. They'll be all wandering back into Mortlake full as a state school, so I'll be trying not to run anyone over.
Should we be backing this said horse, and what is it?
It's one of the Neville Beggs, actually. Graham had it. Probably wasn't good enough for over that side of the state, so he Neville asked if I'd tried over here at a few weaker venues. Ran second last start, and it's set up for the Saturday Blinkers on 2000 Mortlake. If it can't win there, I'm in a bit of strife.
What's it called?
Scottish Gold.
Scottish Gold. There you go, punters. Far, I assume you're a dollar. I've not even taken bets. You'll go on Derby Day.
Yeah, I'll be there.
And Paps, what are you doing for Derby Day?
I'm just going to have a quiet day at Golden Eagle with the punters club. This should be good.
A quiet day, yeah.
Quiet day. Get out of it, Paps.
Let's kick off with
Don't forget, we were on the FaceTime on Saturday. Me, you, and Dicko. It was a quiet day.
Yeah, he hasn't had a quiet day since Carlton got over top of him. Group 3, race 3. That's where we're kicking off. It's 1100 meter race for the mares. There seems to me to be a stack of speed south of Houston, Arch 2, H2O, punters, apologies. Hypothetical, red card. What the hell's going on with red card? Starlight Scope, speed. Far, what do you like here?
I like the favourite here over 1100. I think Rose Court's last two runs, both at Caulfield, have been with merit, given that both of those days they weren't making a whole lot of ground and was a little bit back in the field and finished off strong for 2 seconds. I am going to go with Rose Court's on top here. And I just think last win was a while ago at Flemington, but it was down the straight as well. So keen to stick with her and see if she can get it done again. And I think 380 is a pretty good price.
Steve Dancers stamped the form last Saturday or Friday, whenever it was at the Valley, killed him. Friday night, I reckon it was. Are you concerned about the inside draw down the straight?
No, you never know with how the track's going to play until we get there on the weekend, but I think she'll be all right.
I thought if I had to bet in that race, I'd lean to the 8 hypothetical for the J Carr, the out of form J Carr, who's eventually going to have to come in form.
Yeah,
hope.
she's due to ride a few winners. So
race 4 is the next race. Dan, you got one here. What is it, and why do you like it?
Yeah, I like the Warrnambool horse, Triple Missile. I thought a stronger rider might have got it home first up. Big
I'd
jockey
agree.
change here for J-Mac. And it loves a straight. And I just think Spacewalk's a bit of a cat, and Chain of Lightning needs it a bit of give in the ground. So I think it sets up good for Triple Missile. I think he's a really classy sprinter. I wouldn't be surprised to see him win this and potentially go the Rupert Clark or go to Perth for a Winterbottom.
Two starts this track and trip, 2 seconds, which is a big tick for your horse. Inside barrier concerns me, but I agree with you. Maybe the greatest ever trial I've seen on a racetrack in my life, this horse last start, but concerned the inside draw. I'm going to forgive, trust, and be with Spacewalk here. I think you're getting a bigger price than you should because J Car's riding, and it's just going to sit there. She can't not be in the right sort of lanes. There's good speed around her. Gravina, It's Our Time, who is a straight track horse. That's Cess Managee.
Say Magique.
Say Magique. Well, they're going to go flat out here. Like that Najim's a hail. It just only knows one way. Just
jumped out well too, Najim, but I just find it hard to cop. Like if it wins, I will spew up.
No,
because
it can't win.
I backed it to win at Moonee Valley race. It's like it's 10 lengths softer than this race. So Najim's to hail the great man. Nice jump
But
out.
it guarantees a genuine tempo. Yeah. I think Triple Missile can sit closer than Spacewalk off a genuine tempo, and Spacewalk's not a line chaser, so that's why I'm in the Triple Missile king.
We love line chasers at the Early Crow. You need to be a line chaser to win good races.
When do we like? I know obviously everyone gets out of form. I couldn't get a kick for 6 weeks this year. Jamie's obviously out of form. When do you start? Do you jump off, or is it going to turn for her? What way are you looking at it?
Is I saw she was out of form, I reckon 3 weeks before that ride. Like the Stretton Angel ride was the sort of ride of like, it wasn't her. And then you try and dodge when you can. But eventually, more often than not, trainers and jockeys go up and down and they all sort of revert to like their par. And you want to try and catch them when they're coming up and everyone's off them. And it's a tough time to bounce back. It's as good a racing as there ever is. But she's capable. We know that. And, you know, I certainly don't want to be on anything she rides that's going to be worse than midfield ever. But that was the sort of same way I read her when she was airborne. You know, she gets horses to travel deluxe. And that might suit like a bit of a nonny like Spacewalk because it'll be up thereabouts. It doesn't sort of have to make a stack of ground and savage a line. It's just sort of got to keep going. And I hope that Triple Missile, if I'm against it, which I probably am, just gets sort of held up, those horses on the inside and a bit of a ruck because there's General Bow, there's Najim Sahale potentially stopping. That's how I read that race. But the next race we're going to talk about, Coolmore Stud Stakes, race 6, 1200 meter Group 1 for the 3-year-olds. This race is potentially like legitimately worth more than the Everest for connections because whoever wins this is going to be very, 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 very wealthy human being with stud fees and stallion prospects. Far, what do you got here?
Two. I like Shinzo. I think Shinzo's due here. I think on best performance, if it runs up to his peak, he's right there for this race. Good barrier, J Mac on. So forgive for his last couple of runs, and I'm going to be with Shinzo. And then the other one, I just think a little bit of an unknown is Osmosis. Big brute of a horse, and I think the straight might suit him. Just to sort of get into a gallop and then let down. It could be the kind of style of run that he's been looking for to really run up to this class of horse with these superstars. But yeah, I'm with the Sydney form here. I don't know about how Stapati or Stretton Angel or Arkansas Kid, any of these sort of Melbourne horses are going to shape up against the Sydney form.
Paps, got a view?
Yeah, I like Osmosis as well. I think we've already backed Dicko, right. But yeah, I backed it. I backed it first up and second up, and was going to go to the Everest and didn't. So yeah, I'm keen to be with Osmosis. I got a soft spot for Cylinder. It's been a good horse to me. But yeah, I'll be siding with Osmosis each way.
What do you make of V8, Dan? Like its PB performance this prep is a 1200 meter run first up, then it sort of fell off. It's had that little cheeky jump out down the straight with Shinzo. It didn't look as good as Shinzo, but it's only a jump out. Maps to be a bit forward, nice and grandstand side. Like it's one of the bubble will just erupt if he can, take it from a Guineas path to winning a Coolmore. They will just be horned up to larks in the bubble if he pulls it. Like there's so many potential narrative opportunities from this race. Like if Stapati for the battlers off a Guineas prep, blah blah blah. Talk to me about V8 though.
The entertainment of watching one of the owners of Stapati on Twitter in the racing bubble post race is worth its weight in gold. Entertainment wise for a Saturday night over a glass of red. But the last 23 years has only been two horses run in the Guineas and win this race, and they were Weekend Hustler and a Lingy. Now, no disrespect to the three horses that are trying to do it on Saturday, but they aren't in the same category as those two. So it's rarely done. You've got to be an absolute freak show to do it.
And this looks like a strong addition to me as well of the Coolmore.
It looks extremely strong. The Golden Rose form is always stronger than the Guineas form, and it's easier to run in a Golden Rose and come back to a Coolmore than it is to run in a Guineas. It's just one of those things that's really hard to do. You only get one grand final, and I think this is Shinzo's grand final, whereas I think for Cylinder, his grand final was the Golden Rose. Then they've gone to Everest. Now they're trying to go again. I'd have to be with Shinzo as well.
I really like one here, but I'm concerned about the inside draw. So I wouldn't bet. If you're listening and you're just going to do whatever I say, you wait and you want to see if Triple Missile wins race 3, then you probably have a bet. But King's Gambit drawn inside is a juicy price. I could almost make it favourite. I agree with Dan that Shinzo is like pretty bomb proof. That jump out was real sexy. The preparations just screams Uncle Chris. This is the one we wanted, and he is very, very, very good. But as Pap said, I've already had a little bet, and that is the 11 Osmosis, because I like King's Gambit, so I have to like Osmosis. Osmosis started half its price last time they met. King's Gambit beat it, but the market said that Osmosis was twice as likely to win that race. So I lean to Osmosis as a bet. I've had it. I'll probably back King's Gambit, and I'm likely going to have something on Shinzo. I'll be sick if Stretton Angel wins this race, considering that we took $10 that day for it to win against the Phillies, and that was when the lady we've just been speaking about was very kind to her. Wasn't able to get it done. I'll be absolutely sick. But I think Stratton Angel's a really good horse with a good amount of ability. But it's a fat race. I wouldn't be surprised if much of them won, to be honest. That'll do us for the Coolmore. Let's head to race 7, the Derby. Ken Waller, is this? It's pretty simple, isn't it, Far?
What do you think? I don't think it's simple at all. I think I don't have Riff Rocket on top. He jumped out of his skin at Flemington on Turnbull Day, and then was a little disappointing at Caulfield last start. I think there's a few ways you can look at this. Personally, the gate has, turned me off a little bit, but I was keen to stick with Sunsets. On Caulfield Day, I was in the yard there, and I messaged Trent busted and I said, "Geez, Sunsets has come on a bit in the yard. He looks fit." And he messaged me back with not a lot of confidence and said like, "Oh yeah, he'd need to be a lot fitter to beat to beat Waller's thing." And so I only backed it small, and then it got past it and won. And I messaged him and I said, "Fuck, I should have had a bit more of a crack at it. You didn't fill me with a lot of confidence then." He goes, "Oh well, it's good." And by all
There's a
reports,
big
it's come
lesson
on.
in that for everyone listening. There's a
What's
real
that,
big
sorry?
lesson. There's a massive lesson in that for everyone listening. Just
For
ignore what
sure.
they say. Just you
Yeah,
do you.
yeah, true.
Especially when they're a tipper machine.
Yeah, won't stop ya.
Well,
For sure.
Trent's a tipper machine, and Johnny O'Neill's a tipper machine. So
Yeah,
If they're not tipping it and it's winning.
yeah. So, I like Sunsets. I also like Gold Bullion. When it started a few starts back, Blake Shin got off it and sort of said, "This thing wants further. It'll go good in a derby." So hope your bossing goes on, and its form's been all right enough for me to back it. So I'm going to have two small goes, one at Sunsets, one at Gold Bullion, and then I'll probably just sit back and watch and see if River Rocket beats him by 6 lengths like I did last time out at Flemington.
Dan, got a view here?
oh, I might have a little 1x3 on Air Assault, the Adelaide horse. I just
Great
thought
bet.
he had to do a lot of work last start to get into a spot. Very hot tempo, and he was picking up and going again through the line late. From a cozy draw, Benny Allen, I think he can get a nice run and switch off the first half of the race. Fourth, fifth in the run, he'll be staying. He'll be running out the trip, and I think he's a genuine stayer. So that's sort of half the battle. You can find one that can run the trip.
Started the same price as Apulia did too last week, and you're getting a big difference now. The chink that Apulia has is that it's gone quick back up now again, which is a big concern for these horses. Like this is, you don't know if any of them are going to stay, but that's a big concern. Verdad, I love this horse, but like they weren't even sure about going to a Guineas. This is just like afterthought after afterthought. Graze me up a little bit, but I think he's probably the most talented horse in this race. I agree. Air Assault's a really sound way to bet this race. But the only chink I can find with Riff Rocket is just buy American Pharaoh. Otherwise, it's just one of the simplest bets of all time. It's drawn perfectly. It's the best trainer, the best jockey. SP profile's a massive, massive tick. Like there was 0 intent last start. It's just like another run. If he gets the trip, he will be winning, I think, and I think he'll start. I reckon he could start sub $2. Riff Rocket. That's how I see it. I'll probably build a spot Riff Rocket and have something on Air Assault. So I'm lining up with Dan there. Perhaps you got any views this race?
Yeah, I thought Riff Rocket, but I hate diving into short things over the staying trip, especially the young horses. So I don't know. I'll probably wait in the day, but I don't mind Air Assault at the price as well. If you and Dan like it, I might have a little nibble there.
This is this race is the most torturous beat I've ever had in my life. I had all my all ups landing on young Verta to win and a bit of place this race when like I'm talking hundreds and hundreds and got knocked off by Dennis Pagan and
Johnny get angry.
which never won another
Johnny
race.
get angry.
Unbelievable.
Oh.
I was in my daughter's room now, which is my office, and it might have been a tear. Anyway,
it never looked like losing that Johnny get angry when it loomed up and it was still on the bit like 300 to go. I just went, this thing's gonna win.
Yeah, that's the problem though. When you do it properly and you do your data, you kind of get like fucking tortured twice because then the data comes through on the Monday and you're like, oh my god, they went 15 lengths below benchmark. No wonder that shit horse is able to sprint with it.
Didn't they kill everything out of that race too? They all went up in the ratings, and I reckon that all of them took like 3 years to win another race. Like the thing
It fucked me mentally. Like the next
Young
year, I think
Werther.
it was the next year, Young Verta started $10 in a Caulfield Cup.
Yeah.
That's like, oh, yeah. Anyway, anything else you want to go over for the early Crow Paps, episode 11? Been a big one, but been a good one.
Been a good one.
We didn't do viewer questions
today,
this week.
actually.
We forgot about viewer questions. Shout out to Royce. Probably need to be better, mate. I know you've been busy, but
I'll just have a question. Maybe some of the punters might be interested in this one. Dan and Dicko, your thoughts on the Empire Rose? Do you think Wishlaw Lass on the quick backup is any chance here? And what do you think about the two top ones in the market, Princess Grace and a Tissue?
Princess Grace really grabbed me up. I thought she was a 1400-metre horse. Her run in the Maccabi Diva, she had every chance and just ran up their backsides. I'm not sure about her at the mile. I haven't seen enough of a Tissue in Sydney. I'm not sure Flemington's alcohol-free track. I'd love to see one of the two Warrnambool horses win it. Whistle Lass just continues to improve, and so is Roke to Arataki. So I can't bet into the race. I would have loved to have seen Madame Pomeroy there, and it would have had something on her. But I don't know where she's going. She might lob in the mile on next Saturday against the boys. Waller's done that a few times. So I'll be cheering for the two Warrnambool horses. Whistle Lass is a really tough horse, just continues to improve when they raise the bar. And yeah, Roke Tarataki's last two have been really impressive. So
I think Roke Tarataki's almost been very, very good every start this prep. Like, it was genuine excuses when she fails, and when she fails, she doesn't really fail badly. But they're all sort of half in form, but they've all been racing against each other in their own sex. I try and find horses in these sort of races that come from the right races. So like a Tissue and Hope in Your Heart are coming from the King Charles against Mr. Brightside, who almost won a Cox Plate. So I think that's the form you need to be with, and they're the two horses I'd probably lean to. Hope in Your Heart from one will probably kick up. You pray to God for midfield if you back it and you're on. And a Tissue, that horse is just have a bet, and sometimes it'll explode and piss in, like we've seen, and sometimes it'll sort of just get through its gears. So they're the two horses I'd lean to in that race for sure.
So if people want to come racing with you potentially into the next yearling, or where can they find you on Twitter to see your NBA spats? What's the best way to get in contact?
I'll just jump in. The best way to do that would be go to the yearling sales. So like if you're in Victoria, go to the Premier sale and just go and talk to Dan, the nicest bloke on the sales complex by a mile, and very easy to have a chat with.
And the most honest.
Yeah.
Which you won't find many honest people at a sales complex.
But how do they find you if they want to race on with you?
Probably the website's the best. Most of my Twitter stuff is NBA related or just talk and dribble, like most racing people. But get on the website. There's a link there that you can contact the stable if you're interested. Yeah.
Righto, that's episode 11 wrapped up. Brought to you by ORTC Custom. We'll see you next week.